Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. Here we go. You asked for it? Maybe. We provided it. A lower chest priority specialization growth program. We're going to talk about the theory of why we should specialize, give some really good recommendations, give you a sample program to try, and hook you up with a few resources to expand your knowledge further and get you super jacked. Lower chest. To fill out the bra. Of course, why else would you train your lower chest? I will say before starting that the lower chest isn't something a lot of people tend to prioritize because aesthetically, upper chest looks kind of cooler. It gives you that upper armor plating look. Also, just from regular flat pressing, a lot of times people have pretty dominant lower chests and their upper chests tend to lag. However, in some cases, having a bit more rounding and filling out of the lower chest, especially if you have some loose skin on there, can be aesthetically very awesome. I actually have a weaker lower chest compared to upper chest. So this is pretty pertinent to me, but maybe you're one of these folks and you could get something out of this program. So first up, real quick, why would we want to specialize? Why not just train everything normally? Well, there's really kind of two reasons. First, you just want one muscle group to grow more in relation to the others, like you're obsessed with having a big lower chest or biceps or shoulders. Totally cool reason. And the other reason to specialize, even if you want everything to grow the same, is that if you decrease how much you're training other muscles and increase how much you're training the target muscle, it can allow that target muscle to grow, whereas normally it's so much training overall that barely anything grows. So you grow some of your body by specializing, the other part stays the same. You switch the priorities where you deprioritize what you've been growing, prioritize everything else, and it goes like this. And that's kind of like 2 steps forward, 0 steps back. You grow overall over time. So you can just train everything normally, but if you want to prioritize the development, there is a process to follow. And often this question comes up is how many muscles can I prioritize at the same time? And the answer is however many you can recover from systemically. Prioritization means you're doing more volume, more frequency, maybe even more intensity for any given muscle than you normally do. If you're a beginner, you can kind of put everything on full blast and just grow everything all the time. If you're an intermediate, sort of almost by definition, you may start to be in a position where you can't train everything ultra hard and you have to take some muscles and put them on the back burner. If you're more advanced, you may only be able to specialize 2 to 4 muscles per any given training block or mesocycle, because if you do any more than that, specialize, which means more than normal, the systemic fatigue will get crazy and you won't be able to make gains. So how many muscles can you specialize? The answer is, well, how many can you recover from? So you try specializing a few muscles, and if you find that you recover just fine, next time you go to specialization, add a few muscles to that. So you try to say, this next 3 months, I'm going to specialize in my chest and my back. It goes great, no recovery problems. Or you say, fuck it, I'm going to add my arms in next time. You add your arms, great, still great progress. You add your shoulders and you're like, ooh, this is a bit much. Then you know that maybe just chest, back, and arms, or maybe just, hamstrings, calves, glutes, prioritize just at the same time. And then when you stop prioritizing one of those, you go and prioritize another. And that way, sort of piecemeal, you make awesome gains. All right. The basics of specialization. Here are sort of the ingredients that make it what it is and make it effective. First, specificity. You want to choose, and there's a lot of these are kind of no-brainers, but we have to cover them just to make sure we get our bases covered. Specificity, we have to choose exercises, modalities like myo reps, straight sets, etc., and repetition ranges that preferentially stimulate the target muscle. For example, if you notice that your lower chest really responds well to high reps and doesn't respond so well to lower reps, and you're telling people, hey, I'm doing a specialization, a prioritization cycle for my lower chest, and someone catches you doing real low reps, it'd be like, fuck are you doing that for? I thought you said your chest responded better to higher reps. That's a good point. So specialization, a lot of times, we do for muscles that aren't our strongest. They're actually some of our weakest. Like if anything you do makes your side delts grow, you don't need specialization because you're just always going to grow. But if your lower pecs are kind of a weak part for you and they seem to struggle for growth, you want to make sure to put everything you can, all of your checks, all your boxes have to be checked. Give yourself the biggest advantages possible, which means choosing the right exercises, modalities, and rep ranges that you really feel are really awesome for you. Specialization phases are not the time to explore like, oh, I wonder if this will work. That's for other times. Specialization is when you put the pedal to the metal and really put all of your best weapons ahead. Like, for a fact higher reps work. For a fact the decline bench and dips really fuck up your lower chest. You include those because specialization isn't like, oh, maybe it'll grow or not. You're spending a lot of time really focusing on a muscle. You want to make sure specificity-wise you're targeting it as well as possible. To that end, On the prioritization front, ideally, on most of the days in which you train a prioritized, a specialized muscle, you want to train it first or early in the program. The last thing you want to do is train a muscle when you're already tired, because then systemic fatigue will prevent you from really training that muscle hard. For example, if you say, oh, I'm really prioritizing lower chest, here's what my workout looks like. I start with incline barbell press, then an incline dumbbell press, I'm doing a flat bench press, and then I do some decline flies at the end. And someone could be like, okay, so the decline flies hit your lower chest. You're like, and you do them when you're the most tired. Like, so the stimulus is the lowest it could be. And you're like, touche, sir, right? If you're really interested in desserts, for example, going out to eat and you just, oh my God, I can't wait for the dessert. You want to go to a dessert place first, because when you're hungriest, you probably have the most ability to taste the food and really enjoy the fuck out of it. Right? Like if you are like super excited about dessert and you go have a huge, big regular dinner and then dessert shows up, you might be like, ugh, I guess I'm having cheesecake. Yay, I want to throw up, right? Whatever it is you're prioritizing, you probably want to do early. So a lot of your programming is going to change when you're prioritizing lower chest. You're going to start with a lot of lower chest work, and then everything else you're doing that day will follow after. It doesn't have to be every day, but most of the days of that program will look like that. Next up, frequencies should usually be higher. Higher frequency training tends to be really fatiguing, and it's not super sustainable. However, it has been shown in repeat literature reviews to be more hypertrophic. It causes more muscle growth. So if you're normally training your lower chest twice a week, if you really want to boost it up and over the next several months get it much bigger, try 3 times a week. Again, not sustainable. It's not something you'll be able to do for the rest of your training career because your lower chest will fall apart. However, in the short term, while specializing, you may want to do higher frequency because, again, that's putting all of the check boxes checked. That's saying I'm going to put everything I can into this to make sure it really, really grows. Lastly, of the muscles that you're not specializing in, let's say upper pecs, are you going to do the same amount of work for them as usual? Well, no, because in order for your lower pecs to have as much stimulus as possible, you don't want to be tired from training all the other muscles super hard. And for them to get as much recovery as possible, you don't want your body trying to recover everything else from hard training. So what you can do is consider reducing the overall volume for other muscle groups. Like if you're really prioritizing your lower chest, maybe it's not the greatest time to prioritize your mid chest and upper chest. Keep those at sort of maintenance volume and really push the lower chest. If you're prioritizing, let's say, upper body, just as an example, you want to like cool it on your legs a little bit, because if you prioritize everything, unless you're a beginner, you won't be able to do due diligence to the muscle you're actually prioritizing. Secondly, especially you want to consider reducing synergist volume. Muscles that help that target muscle in many of the exercises, you want to make sure you're not taxing the fuck out of them on their own time so that they're not the limiting factors when it comes to the program. For example, and this is actually perfect for lower chest, what muscles really help you fuck your lower chest up? Well, the rest of your chest for sure, and also triceps. So for example, if you're really trying to cook your lower chest, but you're doing so much tricep work throughout the week that every time you do dips for the lower pecs, your triceps fail first, your lower pecs are like, anyway, glad we could help train the triceps again. You want your triceps fresh so that your lower chest gets as many high quality reps as possible, goes to its own limits as much as possible. So you're going to back off on tricep training. So if you're really serious about prioritizing your lower chest, take your tricep training. You don't have to reduce it to 0. Reduce it a little bit. If you normally do, let's say, 15 sets of triceps per week, try to take it down to like 10. I promise you'll have better lower chest results in that case. All right. So that's the idea. That's the theory. Let's get to constructing your actual lower chest priority plan. Frequency, give a thought, this isn't for everyone, to training with a frequency 1 time per week higher for that muscle group for the lower chest than normal. So for example, if usually you do like 2 sessions of chest training per week, try 3. If you usually do 3, try 4. Just for a few mesocycles, not for forever, right? And of course, you're going to be focusing a few of those sessions. If you train 3 times per week for chest, probably 2 of those will really be focused on lower chest, and 1 of them on the rest of the chest to also give your lower chest a break to do really good work the next week. As far as exercises, this is kind of a no-brainer. You don't need a PhD in biomechanics to figure this out. You want a core of flat pressing, but with an arch and retracted shoulders, which exposes your lower chest really, really well. You can absolutely do decline pressing as well. In the real world, decline pressing is kind of a fucking pain in the ass, and here's why. A lot of gyms don't have a decline press, which isn't even that bad of a thing because it's a fucking kind of useless exercise. If you know how to arch and retract properly, your lower chest is already a huge stimulus target and usually the limiting factor. Secondly, a lot of times, even if you have one of those machines, you can't unrack it by yourself. And you got to get some asshole from the fucking gym to unrack it. You're like, hey, your name is Tom. Was it Tom? He's like, it's Bill. You're like, Bill, you're the fucking man. Can you unrack this shit for me? Because Bill doesn't know what you're doing. You're getting stapled with 315 and getting your fucking head cut off. He's like, when does not simply dump a decline bench? Like, where are you going to dump it? That's your face right there. You could try to play lucky and dump back that way. Who the fuck knows? You get your forehead cut off. It's kind of fucking scary. You can try to do a dumbbell setup with a decline bench on one of those ab machine, like the ab declines. I've seen people do that. It's just a lot of work for maybe not a lot of benefit. If you're a fan of decline pressing, if there's a machine like a hammer strength you can do decline, oh, perfect. But a lot of flat pressing, if you simply arch your back and retract your shoulder blades, really does hit the lower chest super well, and you may not need direct decline work for pressing. However, decline flies, both with dumbbells and with cables, are a swell idea, and I would definitely consider that. And of course, you want to keep some normal overall chest work, even some incline work in, but on the easier days or towards the end of the sessions, first you want to prioritize flat pressing, decline focused, arched and retracted, and of course some decline flying as well. Set numbers. Per session, you want to start with something between 2 and 6 sets per session total for the chest, and whatever gets you a decent pump, and it kind of feels like a bit of a workout. And then over the course of the weeks, you go up as needed to continue to get really, really great stimuli. Loading and repetition ranges, generally speaking, you want to get the rep ranges that give you the best stimulus to fatigue ratios. Tension, pump, burn, really tire the muscle out without hurting your joints or making you feel like total shit. There's huge individual variation and even exercise variation. Like for decline dumbbell presses, sets of 5 to 10 might be amazing for you, but for cable decline flies or just flies like this, anything, shy of anything less than 10 reps might just feel like you're ripping your shoulders apart, but sets of 15 just fry your lower pecs. So it's on you to pick the rep ranges that just give you the best stimulus and the lowest amount of fatigue. In most cases, you want to construct the session such that the beginning of the session is the heaviest work and the lightest work is safe for later. Because you can always do light work very effectively after you do heavy work. The same is not true the other way around. So if sets of 5 to 10 work well for your lower pecs, start with sets of 5 to 10, and then the next exercise, move on to sets of 10 to 20, 20 to 30, whatever checks the boxes for stimulus to fatigue. In addition to that, lastly, if you have a week, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you train chest, and of course you get 2 days off, Saturday, Sunday, and then you recycle the program. Heavy requires lots of rest. It requires a low fatigue state to really benefit from. So what I would say is try to structure your week such that the early part of the week is the heavier and the latter part of the week is the lighter. So if you have exercises that are great in the 5 to 10 rep range, I would do those on like Monday and Wednesday. I wouldn't do them on like Wednesday and Friday. And if you have exercises that are really good in the higher rep ranges, I would save those more for Wednesday and Friday. I wouldn't do a whole lot of them on Monday, at least not first, because heavy is best done early in the week. You get lots of time to recover until you have to do heavy again that next week. All right, progressing through your plan. Okay, so you build a plan, and don't worry, we'll have a sample plan for you in a sec. Set numbers. If you're no longer sore before the next time it comes to train lower pecs, then, and if you're strong again and if you get great performance, just add 1 set to that prior session. So for example, if you train lower chest Monday, and by the Wednesday after, your chest isn't sore anymore and you have a great workout, next week, add a set to whatever Monday was. So if you did 4 sets on Monday, trained again Wednesday, everything was great, everything was recovered. Next time for Monday, do 5 sets. It's that easy. If you're still sore or barely recovered, don't add any sets. So if you do 4 sets and you're barely recovered or still a little sore, next Monday, don't do anything more than 4 sets. You can't just push progress through. Progress only occurs in a balance of stimulus and recovery. So if you're recovering well, you can add the stimulus. If you're recovering just on time, don't add anything. If you're not recovering at all, don't add anything. Your body will get used to it over time. How many reps in reserve? Generally, as with most hypertrophy programs, you start around 3 reps shy in the tank, and you add load and reps over time, and that number eventually drips to like 1 rep in reserve or even 0 reps in reserve and going to all-out failure. If you fail to match performance 2 sessions in a row, you're getting weaker, it's time to deload. Easy, easy plan. As far as loading and reps, I would say seek to add 2.5 to 5 pounds on the bar or in the dumbbells or in the machine stack per week, and or add 1 to 2 reps every time to that exercise per week to each set. And you can try to target the RIR in relation to that, but really if you just add 2.5 to 5 pounds and or 1 to 2 reps, at some point, whatever reps in reserve you started with, let's say it was 3, it has to float down to 2 and to 1 and then eventually to failure. The alternative is you get stronger forever and then you take over and you're in charge of the earth, which would be sweet, but unlikely. So what does a sample plan look like? Finally, your free program awaits. I'm not going to belabor and just read all the shit off the fucking screen because there it is, and you can just read yourself. Pause the video, shut me the fuck up, look at that, and then clue back in, unpause. So sample program, again, this isn't dogma. You don't have to do it this way. But if you're like, man, all this shit sounds really great, I don't really know what it would look like in real life. Voila, here's a good example. And you can actually use this if you'd like. So Monday, just a sample program, we do flat barbell press for 3 sets, heavy, and then paused weighted dips, with your feet behind you. So if you're hanging there for dips, we want the feet back this way because that leverages your chest forward and makes it more of a chest dip. If you put your feet in front of you, then you can stay very upright and it's more triceps. Remember, this is lower chest focus, so we want to put our feet behind us. You can cross your feet, tuck them together, put them behind you, and then lean forward a little bit, chest out, go super deep, pause at the bottom and come back up. Oh, marron, beautiful chest exercise, especially targeting the lower pecs. So 3 sets of flat barbell press, 2 sets of paused weighted dips. Excellent. Notice the dips are in a higher rep range because we're tired already. Wednesday, we start with decline cable flies. It's not like a weird setup or something. You don't need the decline bench. You just do cable flies, but instead of flying like this, you just fly like this. You fly down. And after 3 sets of that, you go to flat machine press. And again, on the flat machine press, you want to arch and retract to expose more of your lower pecs. Ooh, that was kind of sexual. I'm not feeling myself. Friday, Scott, the video guy, thought that was hilarious. Back there laughing and probably touching himself, but that would make it just like every other video. Who knows what he's doing back there? Friday, quirky thing happens, low incline dumbbell press. That means we're pressing not like this in an incline, but like this. Why? Well, here's the thing. First of all, it's just for 3 sets. Yeah, that's not very challenging. And it's low incline, which is like, what the fuck? I thought this was a lower chest program. That doesn't even target the lower chest. Aha, Jewish revelation. Monday and Wednesday, we're beating the fuck up out of our lower chest. Friday, we want an exercise that still stimulates it a little bit because a little bit of stimulus promotes recovery. And of course, we need to train the other parts of our chest. We don't want our upper pecs to shrink during this time. But by making Friday very easy and by hitting the other parts of our chest, we're letting our lower chest recover like crazy over the weekend. So when we come back Monday, we're ultra fresh to fucking hammer that lower chest again. Because if we constructed a program that was Monday, lower chest, Wednesday, lower chest, Friday, lower fucking chest again, by the time we get to next Monday, our lower chest would be like, dude, fuck you, I'm out. I can't do this shit anymore. There's never time for me to recover. So a really good strategy is to hit it really hard early and midweek. Later in the week, back up a little bit, train the rest of your chest a little, because remember, we're backing off from most of the chest. And then when you come back to next Monday, you're fresh, you're ready, and you build, back off, build. Week over week, you're getting great lower chest results. Now, that first slide, this one right here, is week 1. Here is a sample, potentially, of what your final week pre-deload would look like. Maybe you're running a 6-week progression, which means week 5 would be this last week before a deload. And here's what it could look like. Folks, do not do this verbatim. Again, we increase sets in an auto-regulatory fashion. If we're recovering and things are good, we add a set. If we're recovering just on time and there's no room to add anything, we don't add anything. And if we're really not recovering, we actually take a set away to make sure we start recovering again. But a lot of people will add some sets because your body gets used to shit as you do it more. And over time, you could do more sets week to week, not every week potentially, but as your body indicates that you recovered. So you could end up in the last week with something like 7 sets of barbell press. Notice in the first week, it was 3 reps in reserve that we were doing, and now it's 0 reps in reserve. So basically taking shit to failure for 7 sets. Holy fucking shit, your lower chest is fried. 5 sets of dips. On Wednesday, 6 sets of decline cable flies, 4 sets of machine presses. Low incline dumbbell press on Friday, only 4 sets. Now, we could be recovered to do way more than that. We started with 3 and all we ended with was 4. That's on purpose. You don't want to increase that Friday sets, even if you can, because you're purposefully just having a mini workout to allow that recovery to occur, because Monday, you have to get into it again. If we just did like 8 sets of dumbbell presses, what the fuck are we going to do next Monday? Now, the clever of you will observe that, hold on a sec. Next Monday after this week is a deload, so fuck it. So absolutely, on this Monday, or so this Friday, the last one, you can cook yourself. It doesn't fucking matter. You can do 8 sets. Who cares? Because you'll deload and be fine. But all the other weeks, it's going to be like 3 sets, 3 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, 4 sets deload. Or 3 sets, 3 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, 8 sets deload. That's totally fine. But basically, the real kicker is Friday. You want to be much easier through the entire routine until maybe last Friday, and then you just fucking torch your chest, take fucking lighters, and I guess that's the nipples are there. You might not want to do that. The nipples tend to hurt if you irritate them. All right. Lastly, how long do you do this for? Just specialize forever? Well, hold on a sec. There's too little specialization and too much. If you specialize for longer than like a few months, because remember, none of this is sustainable. Frequency is higher. The volume is higher. Specificity is super direct. You can overtrain muscles, and then they actually start regressing in size and potentially getting hurt. You don't want any of that. So you want to cap it at around 3 mesocycles. 5 weeks of hard training, 1 week of deload, and you repeat that 3 times. 2 or 3 times is an excellent amount of time to specialize. Can you specialize for just 1 mesocycle? You sure can. But I sort of humbly recommend that you do it for 2 or 3, because 1 mesocycle of gains is sweet, but if you can continue to progress, milk everything you can out of it, maybe it's a good idea to do 2 or 3 to really see a visible change. 1 mesocycle of lower chest periodization, you could look at your physique and be like, all right, I got a little bit bigger. But if you do 2 or 3, you'd be like, wow, holy crap, my lower chest really improved. You go to the club, and that one girl that never fucking talks to you, she's like, hey, what's your name? You're like, Bill. She's like, I noticed your lower chest. And you're like, oh God. And you get super fucking red faced. And she's like, whatever, loser. And she walks off. You're like, fuck. I got my lower chest big, but I still can't talk to girls. If you want to learn how to talk to girls, don't fucking ask me. I have no idea how that works. I've never been to a club. My name's not Bill. And I sure as hell have never had a girl initiate a conversation with me. If you're going meso to meso to meso in a priority phase, you can just train the same each time. You can do the same exercises. However, in many cases, you want to actually do more high rep training as you go, because as you accumulate fatigue over the mesos, not all of it falls off. Grinding sets of 5 to 10 might be easy in the first 2 mesocycles, but in the last one, your joints might be a little so you might want to do some higher rep training. So maybe mostly sets of 5 to 10 in the first meso, more sets of 10 to 20 in the second mesocycle, and even a few sets of 20 to 30 in the last meso to really finish off on a high note without risking joint injury, so on and so forth. Not mandatory, but something cool to think about. You may want to use some new exercises each time. Ideally, though, you delete and replace exercises only when the stimulus to fatigue ratio falls off. So, for example, if you're doing decline barbell press and it's fucking amazing, the stimulus is insane, your joints feel incredible, don't fucking get rid of it. And you could ask, like, what? So you want me to decline press 3 mesocycles in a row? Yeah, if it's working well, fuck yeah. It's like same idea of like, what should you order at a restaurant when you go to a restaurant? Like if you have a regular food that you really love, like let's say the meatball pastas are, oh, perfect. If you show up to the restaurant, there's only one question to ask. Do you really want the meatball pasta? You search your heart of hearts and be like, yes. Then you fucking order the meatball pasta. The only time you don't order is if you ask yourself, do I really want it? Meh. And you look at the menu, you're like, ooh, this other thing looks good. Then you order it. Same with exercises. If, let's say, you're doing machine presses, and after 2 mesocycles, you're like, I don't know, man, that last week fucking blew. I'm tired of these things. My fucking shoulders kind of feel weird on it. I'm not getting big pumps. I'm going to switch to decline dumbbell presses. You make the switch, and it's great. Get rid of the machines, intro the dumbbells, perfect. So ideally, while you could sort of proactively introduce new exercises, the best recommendation is if the stimulus to fatigue ratio is good, you keep it in. If it starts sliding down on you and you think, ooh, there's another exercise I'd like to try, which I think will have a better stimulus to fatigue ratio, then you replace it on the next mesocycle. Frequency, generally, you start with lower frequencies and move up, and then you sort of deload and get away from that specialization. So let's say you want to specialize, you train in chest usually twice a week, you go 3 times a week, first mesocycle. Second mesocycle, you still have a third one left, so you're not going to sort of cook all your eggs yet. You're going to go 3 again. In that third mesocycle, try 4 times a week. Worst case scenario, you fry your shit out, but good news, you don't have to be sustainable because after you get a break. Here's that last part. After, ideally, you want either a low volume phase or an active rest phase to really relax and heal all that stuff because specialization phases take it out of you. Do you have to take one of these? No. But what I would say is for that next phase, after 3 mesocycles of really cooking your lower chest, I would say that next meso, be it active rest, be it low volume, or be it a normal hypertrophy mesocycle, for your lower chest, it should be active rest or low volume. It should be much, much less. Don't just go back to normal lower chest training. It's going to need a break because it's been pushed to its limits and a little bit beyond. It's time to back off for a few weeks, heal all the joints, connective tissues, the muscles, so that when you want to grow it again, it's healthy, it's robust, it responds, and it's not going to just break in half. After that, your lower chest is taking a break. You're maybe ready to go again. You can either specialize it again, go back to normal training where you train everything all the same, or specialize a muscle group that is completely unrelated. That's all up to you, whatever you want to do. So can you specialize muscles back to back to back? A block, which is like 3 mesocycles in a row. Can you do back-to-back blocks? No, because you should do an active rest or low volume at least for that muscle. After you do that, 2 to 4 weeks of lighter training for that muscle and much easier training. Can you do another specialization block for that muscle? Absolutely, if your heart desires. All right, that's a whole lot of shit. Maybe you need some help with a bit more resources. Don't worry, we've got you covered. If you're wondering about how some of these exercises look, we have an exercise video library, link right in the description. It's completely free. You click, and it's me narrating and Jared Feather doing the exercises, teaches you how to do the techniques really well. We even have a muscle group training guide. So the guide for pecs is right below. And actually, we're going to link the whole thing. So you have all the muscle guides. Click on chest, a lot of the lower chest exercises in there. And it really tells you how to construct a chest program, reps and sets and exercise techniques and frequencies and all that stuff is covered. It's super awesome. It's completely free, by the way. We have also linked the Hypertrophy Made Simple videos. So if you're watching this and you're like, SFR, what the fuck is that? Covered super simply. It's actually a radically simple concept in the Hypertrophy Made Simple videos, which are also in there. If you're tired of free shit and you want to pay me money, because I need to be riding on dubs on these Lambos, the Hypertrophy book, it costs money, not a lot of money. People say it's a nice book. I thought it was okay. Jared and James and Melissa Davis and I wrote it. We thought it was fine. It's linked also. It's not free, but if you want to shoot us some dough, that'd be sweet. And here's the real upsell where we get all of your money. If you're like, okay, this all fucking sounds sweet, but like constructing my own program is a giant pain in my ass. Is there a way in which I could have some kind of machine intelligence system build a program for me? Well, yes, we have on the RP site linked below a custom training template builder in which you select the specialization, you select what muscles you want to grow, you select how many times you want to train per week, you even select your biological sex if you're into that sort of thing. I'm into a whole lot of biological sex and even computer sex if you're asking. And you build your own training template. It only costs like $100 and you can use the thing for like, 4, 5, 6 months, no problem. If that's up your alley, great. If not, just use the free resources. No judgment, no hard feelings. Folks, we'll be back at some point with another one of these for another muscle. We'll get all the muscles covered. In the meantime, like, subscribe, upvote, downvote, whatever the fuck YouTube shit. See ya.